death of professional wrestling star and one of the world's most recognisable pop culture figures, Hulk Hogan.
The professional wrestling and entertainment star Hulk Hogan has died.
Documents were dated the day before he died. Not years before, not months, the day before. And they were found in a room that does not exist on any property record, behind a wall with no seams, in the basement of a mansion where the entire security system had been manually disabled from the inside before the 911 call was ever placed. The FBI does not show up to natural deaths. They were here. The 911 call came in at 9:42 in the morning on July 24th, 2025. Cardiac arrest. A private residence in Clearwater, Florida, belonging to Terry Jean Bollea, the man the world knew as Hulk Hogan. Emergency responders worked the scene with everything they had. Every effort failed. At 11:17 that morning, doctors at Morton Plant Hospital pronounced him dead. The medical examiner's report came quickly. Acute myocardial infarction, heart attack, natural causes. For most people, that was enough. The body of a 71-year-old man who had put himself through more than 24 surgeries, who had built the entire architecture of modern professional wrestling on a spine that was eventually reconstructed beyond recognition. It added up. The tributes came. Dwayne Johnson, John Cena. An entire generation of performers who acknowledged that without Hulk Hogan, the world they worked in does not exist. His match against Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 in 1987 still ranks among the most watched moments in sports entertainment history. The roar of 93,000 people. An industry turned into an empire. The official story was clean. The scene inside his mansion was not. The gym that looked like a showroom. The gym was the first thing that stopped investigators. Not because of what was in it, because of what wasn't. Hogan's gym was his space. People who knew him personally described it as the room where he was most himself.
The gym has been scaled down quite a bit since I was the world's champion in the 80s and 90s. Before, it used to be probably 3 or 4 times as big, and it's training smart and training hard.
Weights he had trained with for decades, machines calibrated specifically to his needs, even through the surgeries and recoveries, even as his body was held. Together more by titanium and scar tissue than anything biological, he kept returning to that room. His wife Sky Daly had spoken publicly about his daily workout commitment just weeks before his death. His son Nick told interviewers he was more focused on his health than at any point in his life. Photos from that period showed a man who looked better than he had in years. On the morning of July 24th, the gym looked like a showroom floor on opening day. Surfaces polished, weights arranged in geometric rows, floor mats without a single scuff mark. No water bottles, no towels, no evidence of a single recent human presence. A gym that immaculate does not happen by accident. It looks staged. It looks like someone walked through that room deliberately, before the call was placed. Investigators had 2 explanations. Either Hogan had not used that room in far longer than anyone around him realized, which contradicted everything his family said publicly, or someone with access to that. House prepared that room with deliberate purpose before the body was found. And then the security system made both of those options significantly more serious. Turned off from the inside. His Clearwater mansion ran one of the most comprehensive private security setups available. Multiple camera arrays, perimeter motion detection, backup redundancies built to survive power disruptions. He controlled who came in and when. He rarely made exceptions. On the morning his body was discovered, the entire system had been manually disabled, not a power failure, not a glitch. Someone physically walked to the control panel, entered the access codes, and turned it off, intentionally, with full knowledge of the layout and credentials required to do it without triggering an alert. And here's where it gets worse. There was no forced entry anywhere on the property, no broken locks, no compromised windows, no evidence anyone came in from the outside against resistance. Which means the person who disabled that system was already inside. Either Hogan did it himself before he died, for reasons nobody has been able to explain, or someone with trusted authorized access to that house made a deliberate decision to ensure that what happened inside those walls would not be recorded. Local police assessed the scene and called the federal authorities. Why the FBI showed up. The FBI does not get deployed to natural deaths. That is not protocol. That is not how the system works. When a 71-year-old man with documented heart disease and a major recent surgery dies at home, local law enforcement handles it. The medical examiner files a report. The file closes. That is not what happened here.
Everything's fused.
The whole back.
I've had 10 back surgeries, but the thing is, my knees and my hips are so old now because I had the left knee scoped 3 or 4 times, the right knee scoped 3 or 4 times, then I had them replaced.
Federal teams arrived with cybercrime specialists, digital forensics units, and experts in smart home architecture and surveillance network analysis. Their mandate: reconstruct a complete timeline of that house in the hours before the 911 call. Find out who controlled the security system. Find out whether the official account was the complete picture. Modern smart homes log everything. Every thermostat change, every light switch, every door sensor, time-stamped. Federal investigators went through all of it. What they confirmed: the security system had been disabled from inside. What they could not confirm: who did it. No unauthorized external access appeared anywhere in the digital records. The change had been made locally by someone physically present in the house. The logs did not tell them who. The investigation expanded to communications and contacts. Every person with meaningful access to Hogan's life in the days before the 911 call was placed. And that detail changes everything that follows: the phone call. 3 days before his death, Hulk Hogan received a phone call late at night. His wife, Sky Daly, told investigators she had never, in all their time together, seen him react the way he reacted to that call. That context matters. Hogan was not a man who frightened easily. His career was built on fearlessness so convincing it became indistinguishable from the real thing. He had survived public scandal, financial ruin, the collapse of a 24-year marriage, and depression serious enough that he later acknowledged it had pushed him toward thoughts of not going on. He had returned from all of it, every time. After this phone call, he was pale, shaking. He said almost nothing about the contents, and when Sky pressed him, he deflected with the practiced ease of a man who had spent a career keeping certain things entirely to himself. She described his expression with one specific word: not anxiety, not stress, fear. When investigators traced the call's origin, what they found deepened the concern considerably. It had not come from a traceable number. It had been routed through a chain of servers across multiple countries, a technique requiring significant technical knowledge and deliberate planning. This was not a misdial. Someone had taken careful, sophisticated steps to make sure the conversation's origin could never be identified. The FBI considered the range of possibilities: a warning, an extortion attempt, pressure connected to sensitive information Hogan may have been sitting on. What investigators agreed on: the call was planned, targeted, and whoever made it did not want to be found. The contents remain classified within the ongoing investigation. That by itself should tell you something. If you want to be here when this investigation breaks open, subscribe now. Because when the next piece of this drops, you are going to want to have been following from the start. 3 days before his death, a man who had survived everything was suddenly afraid of something. 3 days later, the security system in his home was dark, and his body was on the floor. The surgery nobody is talking about. Here is the medical question the heart attack headline has never fully answered. On May 14, 2025, just 10 weeks before his death, Hulk Hogan underwent a 4-level anterior cervical discectomy and fusion procedure. Surgeons entered his cervical spine, removed damaged discs across 4 levels, and fused the vertebrae to relieve pressure on spinal nerves. One of the more complex spinal operations a patient can undergo. At 71, with his medical history, the risks were substantial and the surgical team knew it. Medical experts who reviewed the case after his death flagged something specific. The phrenic nerve, which controls the diaphragm and is essential to breathing, runs close to the surgical field in a multi-level anterior cervical procedure. If that nerve is compromised during surgery, respiratory failure does not always arrive immediately. It can come weeks later, without warning, when the body can no longer compensate for what has been disrupted beneath the surface. Sky Daly has indicated plans to file a medical malpractice lawsuit. Her position is that the surgery damaged his phrenic nerve and that the damage contributed directly to the cardiac event that killed him. No court has ruled on this, but the theory is medically coherent, and it raises a question that Heart attack as a cause of death does not resolve. Was this the natural end of a declining body? Or was it the delayed consequence of something that went wrong on an operating table in May? Something that looked exactly like recovery until the moment it stopped. The family beneath the surface. His first marriage to Linda Claridge in 1983 produced 2 children, Brooke and Nick, and the image of the all-American wrestling family. Their reality show Hogan Knows Best turned into television. That image was not the whole story. In 2007, infidelity allegations surfaced. Linda filed for divorce after 24 years. The split played out in public with financial destruction and acrimony that Hogan described as the darkest period of his life. Those scars never fully closed. A second, marriage to Jennifer McDaniel lasted a decade before ending quietly in 2021. Then came Sky Daly, a yoga instructor he married in 2023. Those who knew him described her as genuinely stabilizing, someone who gave him focus and peace in what would turn out to be his final years. He called her his anchor. His daughter Brooke was not at the wedding.
They had been estranged after she skipped her dad's wedding to his new wife, Sky Daly, in 2023. But TMZ reporting the last conversation they ever had was 2 weeks before that. She called him and told him she loved him, and he apologized to her.
The distance between them had grown for years, compounded by a publicly leaked tape that Brooke found deeply humiliating. A relationship that had been the emotional centerpiece of a television show about family love had become something much more private and much more painful. Then came the will. Before his death, Hogan removed Brooke entirely from his estate. His son Nick was named sole beneficiary of a fortune valued at nearly $5 million. Every asset, every account, every piece of a legacy built over 4 decades directed to one child, while the other received nothing. Inheritance disputes do not automatically create motive, but they create context. In an investigation where every detail is weighed for significance, the erasure of a child from a multi-million-dollar estate is not a detail that gets passed over. The room that was not supposed to exist. During the second forensic sweep of the mansion, everything changed. Behind what appeared to be a standard section of wall in the basement, no visible seams, no architectural hint, nothing to differentiate it from the surrounding structure. Federal investigators found a room. It is not in the property records. It does not appear on any architectural documentation associated with the house. It had been built or converted or concealed with enough care to survive years of occupancy without ever being detected by anyone not specifically searching for it. Walk through what they found inside. Files arranged in careful sequence, documents organized by category and date, medical records, financial statements, private communications involving contacts that appear nowhere in Hogan's public life. A complete, organized archive that someone had been actively maintaining. Not collecting dust, not abandoned, maintained. This was not a space built to hide things and forget them. This was a space built to be used. And here is the detail that changes everything. Some of those documents were dated the day before his death. Someone was in that room in the final 24 hours of Hulk Hogan's life. Not storing things, not archiving, accessing, reading, possibly adding to what was already there. Consider what that means. On the day before a man dies, the things he chooses to touch are the things that matter most to him, the things he is still thinking about, still protecting, still afraid of losing. While the rest of the world believed he was recovering from surgery and living quietly in Florida, someone was in a room that does not exist on any property record, handling documents that nobody outside this investigation has ever been allowed to see, less than 24 hours before the 911 call was placed. Now, hold that alongside the disabled security system, the untraceable phone call 3 days earlier, the gym scrubbed clean of any evidence of recent human presence. These are not 4 unrelated anomalies. These are 4 data points inside the same 72-hour window, and every one of them points in the same direction. The FBI has not confirmed the specific contents of what was found, but reporting that has filtered through the investigation suggests some documents may have related to sensitive communications and relationships that do not fit the public narrative of a retired wrestler living quietly in Florida. Unconfirmed but persistent suggestions indicate some material may have involved forms of leverage, information that someone else might have wanted badly enough, or wanted destroyed entirely. The information lockdown around that room has been total. No named sources, no background briefings, no partial disclosures. A wall of institutional silence that has held for months in an era when sealed court records get leaked within days and classified material ends up on social media before the ink is dry. Nothing from that basement room has surfaced. Not a description, not a category, not a single sentence about what kind of material it contained. Former FBI forensic analysts who reviewed the publicly available details of the case have made a consistent observation. That level of containment does not happen because investigators found nothing of interest. You do not suppress nothing. You suppress something that still matters, something whose disclosure would, right now, create consequences that someone in a position of authority has decided to prevent. Sky Daily's medical malpractice lawsuit, if it proceeds, may force some of what is in those files into the public record. Court filings move differently than federal investigations. A wrongful death claim tied to spinal surgery on a celebrity of this magnitude is difficult to contain, the way an FBI investigation can be contained. That process is ongoing, but it has not broken yet. What is in those files? That question remains open. That question is why this investigation has not closed. What we know and what we don't. The confirmed facts are these. Hulk Hogan died on July 24, 2025. The medical examiner ruled cause of death as a heart attack, consistent with his documented health conditions. He had undergone major spinal surgery 10 weeks earlier. The security system was disabled before emergency services arrived. The FBI was brought in. A concealed room was found during the second forensic sweep. The investigation remains open. The unconfirmed but reported details, the phone call 3 days before his death, routed through servers across multiple countries, content still classified, the possible phrenic nerve damage from the May surgery, and whether the post-operative recovery Hogan appeared to be making was masking damage that could not yet be seen, the specific contents of the documents in the basement room, the nature of the contacts referenced in those files and why those contacts do not appear anywhere in his public record, the questions nobody has answered. Who disabled that security system, and why? What was said in that phone call? What was Hogan doing in a hidden room the day before he died? And is the information locked down around that basement room the silence of investigators who found something extraordinary, or something they have been directed to protect? The official story is a heart attack. Maybe that is the whole story. Maybe the surgery damaged something that post-operative scans could not detect, and what looked like recovery was a countdown. Maybe Sky Daily's malpractice lawsuit will establish in court that what happened on that operating table in May contributed directly to what happened in that mansion in July. Maybe the phone call was a threat from someone with no actual power over him. Maybe the hidden room was simply where a very private man kept the parts of his life he did not want anyone to see. But here is what you cannot explain away. The FBI does not deploy digital forensics teams and cybercrime specialists because a 71-year-old man had a heart attack. They do not maintain total information containment around a hidden basement room for months without a reason. Something in that house warranted federal involvement. Something in those files warranted a silence that has not broken. The investigation is open. The lawsuit is pending. The files are still being reviewed by people who are not talking. Was it the natural end of a body that had given everything? Was it a surgery that went wrong and a medical system that failed to catch the damage in time? Was it the consequence of something Hogan knew, something kept in a room no one was supposed to find, something that a phone call 3 days before his death told him had finally caught up with him? Here is what is not in question. Hulk Hogan was one of the most recognizable human beings who ever walked into a wrestling ring. He built the stage. He created the template. He made an industry into an institution. That legacy is permanent, and nothing that happens in a federal investigation changes it. But the man who built all of that also maintained a secret room in his basement filled with files he kept from everyone, accessed it the day before he died, and received an untraceable phone call 72 hours earlier that left him visibly shaking. Those two things are both true at the same time. The truth is in that mansion, in those files, behind the silence of an investigation that has told the public almost nothing while the months keep passing. Hulk Hogan spent his career playing a man who could not be beaten. Something beat him. We do not know yet whether it was time or a scalpel or something else entirely, until that investigation closes, until Those files come out until someone decides the public deserves the full picture. That question does not go away. Subscribe so you are here when this investigation finally cracks open. Drop your theory in the comments. This story is not over.